Am I the butthole for forcing out a fart to get my mum to stop asking my girlfriend invasive questions in front of the whole family? I know what it sounds like, but I swear it's a desperate situation. So, I, a 23-year-old man, have been with my 22-year-old girlfriend for 7 months. She has a visible scar on her neck and she hates to be asked about it and hates to tell the story behind it. Believe it or not, even I don't know the story yet, but I'm waiting until she's comfortable to share. She's met my family several times, and of course, mum and aunts asked her about her scar, like 3 or 4 times in just a couple of hours. Then at dinner, then during movie time, etc. It got bothersome and my girlfriend looked uncomfortable, and I could just tell that the question itself was bringing her sadness. I told my mum to stop asking such invasive questions about the scar, and every time she'd say, "Okay, I won't ask, I promise," but then she would turn around and do it again. On Mother's Day, my girlfriend and I attended dinner at Mum's. We were sitting in the living room and my mum goes to ask my girlfriend about the scar again, this time with a bigger audience because the whole family was there. My girlfriend said she'd rather not talk about it, but mum kept cornering her and kept asking her in a yes-no form. I was sitting next to my mum and I forced a loud fart in an attempt to take pressure and attention away from my girlfriend and get mum to switch her focus to something else. I was like, whoops, and the family started laughing. Mum turned to me and gave me a nasty stare. It got awkward, I'm not gonna lie, but I was desperate and I couldn't really yell at mum to stop and start a fight on Mother's Day, so I thought of doing this instead of making a scene. She pulled me into the kitchen and scolded me for what I did, after I admitted that I did it intentionally. She called me childish and said that if I didn't want her to bring up my girlfriend's scar, then I should have said. But I did, I swear, like 100 times. Anyways, my girlfriend and I left, and my girlfriend couldn't stop laughing in the car. Unfortunately, my dad was upset too, saying I behaved poorly and childishly in front of the extended family, and he told me to grow up. So, am I the butthole? Well, hey, I can think of a few less embarrassing ways to get someone's attention, but look, it worked, and you're not the butthole. I love it, actually. It's kind of crazy. You're using your butthole to not be the butthole. That is unbelievable. Am I the butthole for arguing with my husband's doctor and acting like a Karen because they wouldn't listen? My husband has a sore foot. No injury or medical condition that would explain the pain, but he hasn't been able to walk properly for about a week. Being the absolute pain in my butt that he is, he's refused to go to the doctors until today. Apparently he preferred to just pop paracetamol and complain to me. It's gotten progressively more swollen and misshapen looking, and today it's got a funny colour and he can't put any weight on it. So I called our GP, who has sent him to the walking clinic at our local hospital. We finally get seen, and the doctor refused to even examine it. He told him without even looking at the foot that it was a sprain and he wasn't going to prescribe him any painkillers, so not to ask. Then he started demonstrating some kind of exercises that involved going up and down on tiptoes and flexing the toes. I asked if he would please just look at it, as it's gone nearly black in some spots and looks similar to how my wrist looked when I broke it a few years ago. He huffed at me and asked where my medical degree was from. It put my back up and I demanded to see another doctor or his senior. I was the butthole here because it wasn't me being treated, so I get he thought I was a pushy cow. Husband wouldn't say boo to a goose in medical situations though, and he would have accepted the doctor's instructions without any questions about actually needing to be examined. The doctor left, and we heard him outside the cubicle telling the senior doctor that they have a confrontational spouse who thinks her WebMD searching qualifies her to instruct real doctors on how to practice medicine. He also states that he suspects my husband of exaggeration to get opiates. By the time the other doctor arrives, I'm seething, and I lay out exactly what went on and explain that I only want someone to look at the foot before sending us away. He looks. Cue x-rays, an MRI, the good painkillers, and a walking boot casting with potential to need surgery because he's got 7 stress fractures in that foot, probably from running. Admittedly, they were worse than they needed to be because he didn't get any treatment when it first started to hurt. Then a second doctor and someone from the hospital admin come and apologize for the first doctor and ask if we want to make a formal complaint. So I did, because the outcome of his not listening to the patient or family could have been worse. My husband, though, didn't. My husband said later that the first doctor may well get sacked because of me complaining, and I should have left it because no real harm was done. So was it a butthole move to complain? I don't usually have Karen tendencies, but he was just so patronizing and dismissive, and I kept thinking, what if it was a young mother with a sick baby and he dismissed that? Not everyone would stand their ground, and there could be some really serious consequences. No, you're definitely not the butthole here, and you're also not a Karen. In my opinion, Karens are people that complain about things that do not need to be complained about. Whereas in this situation, you're complaining about a real health issue, and you're right, if you hadn't complained, your husband wouldn't have known he had 7 stress fractures. I couldn't agree more. If this doctor is doing this with your husband's foot, imagine what would happen if it was something really, really serious that could potentially endanger someone's lives. It's bad practice from the doctor, and it's good stuff from you, definitely not the butthole. Am I the butthole for going off on my wife after she made a sex sign to keep my mum from knocking on our bedroom door? So, I've been married to my wife for 4 years. We have a medium-sized apartment. For the last 2 months, my mother has been staying off and on in our guest room. My dad recently passed away, and it's hard for her to live in their house alone, so I've been letting her stay with us. My wife and her have never particularly got along, but I expected her to understand why it's important to me that she overlooked this just for a little while. I mean, she lost her husband of 40 years. She's fragile, and I really want to be able to do what I can to make her feel better. My mum's presence has changed our routine a little bit, mainly our nighttime routine. She'll usually come knock on our door to talk, and my wife hates this, partially because it interrupts our intimacy. Usually, when she's over, we just don't make love. Now this past week, I noticed my mum hasn't been coming in at night, so we had normal nighttime habits. Yesterday, my mum pulled me aside and told me that the sign I let my wife put on the door at night was disgusting and not something she ever needed to know. She also said that she was very hurt that I don't want to speak to her since I'm all she has left now. I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. She said the sign about sex. I still had no idea and talked to my wife about it when she got home. She admitted to it. She said that she made a sign to keep my mum out of our hair at nights. On the sign was written, "Please do not disturb unless you want to see me screwing your son." She thought it was funny and necessary, but I was mad about it. I took the sign, crumpled it up, and tossed it in the garbage. I then went off on my wife about how inappropriate and embarrassing this was. She told me it was my fault we needed this, and it's just a joke. I slept on the couch last night, and she is still angry at me. So, am I the butthole? Yeah, I guess the sign's quite funny in a crude way, I'll give you that. But in this context, knowing full well that your partner's mum's husband has just died and she is left all alone, a partner of 40 years by the way, that's just horrible, I'm sorry. Suck it up. Like, you can't have sex for a week or 2. Deal with it. It's not the end of the world. Come on. This is just throwing it back in her face. And yeah, it's horrible. You know what's crazy is that on Reddit, this is probably the first time I ever disagree with Reddit. Everyone on the comments is saying that you, OP, are the butthole. Like, you shouldn't have gone off on your wife and you should set boundaries with your mum. I actually fundamentally disagree. She's been staying at your gaff for like 2 weeks. Can your wife not just deal with that for a couple of weeks? It's not the end of the world, is it? Be nice to someone whose husband of 40 years has just died. Come on. Okay, sorry to go on about this, but I'm just reading through the comments to understand if I'm just in the wrong here. Some people are saying that your mum could come and talk to you at any other point in the day and it doesn't have to be at night. That I agree with, I'm not gonna lie. But showing some compassion to a woman who's just lost her husband of 40 years, surely that's the easiest thing to do. Let me know in the comments. Interested to hear your thoughts. Am I the butthole for not waking my husband up for his 5 a.m. walk? So, for the past month, my husband has been waking up at 5 every morning to have a walk. These walks would take about 2 hours. A quick side note to mention that this is new. He's not trying to lose weight, he's pretty thin, he's not athletic by nature, nor has sports interests or hobbies. In fact, he used to hate doing any type of sports. I'm happy for him, since it's an overall positive thing. But yesterday, he came home in the evening after working for long hours, then stayed up late playing on his phone. I went to bed at 10 after getting done with the mess and everything. I woke up to him the next day, yelling at me at 7 a.m, asking me why I didn't wake him up for his 5 a.m. walk. He said he missed it, and I'm responsible for that. I was so confused. I said that first of all, he always wakes up by setting his alarm. Why should I be expected to wake him up this time? He yelled that he forgot to set his alarm. I said, so what? It's no big deal. It's not like he missed an important meeting or something. But he got more angry and said that those walks help improve his health and restore his energy, helping him feel better. I made a comment about how missing one walk won't hurt, but he unloaded on me, yelling about how I was trying to prevent him from doing his hobby for some unknown reason. I told him he was sorely mistaken, even though I admit that those 5 AM daily walks around the Veterans Park are weird, but also his reaction, I really thought it was over the top. He stormed off and went to the shower, saying I'd ruined his entire day. When he got out, he started avoiding and ignoring me. Even when I talked to him directly, he went to work and refused to respond to my calls. Really, I'm at a loss. Like, maybe it was something I said about his walks, but I really don't know. He's sulking non-stop as of now, and I'm literally about to lose my mind. Guys, am I the butthole? Yeah, this is the easiest not the butthole I've ever seen. I'm sorry. Your husband is the one walking at 5 AM, not you. He usually sets alarms, not you. Obviously not your fault. It's a bit embarrassing actually. He's clearly just taking out his anger on you because he failed to wake up. Embarrassing on his behalf. Set an alarm, pal. Not that hard. Am I the butthole for showing the kids what their dad did? My husband was staying at the hospital for some health issues. After he got out, he started wetting the bed every few nights. We talked to the doctor about it and they gave us meds, but they take time. So they suggested that my husband use adult diapers temporarily. He said no, and since he's too sick to do anything, I'm the one having to clean up every time. I grew tired of it. He just kept wetting the bed and not even considering diapers. Yesterday morning was my final straw. I saw that he'd wet the bed again, and I just kind of went off. I kept talking, but it's like he wasn't hearing me at all because he just kept staring at the wall. Our kids heard the fuss and came in asking what was going on. I showed them the state the bed and sheets were in and said, "See, your dad keeps wetting the bed and throwing a tantrum when asked to wear a diaper." They stared, and my husband looked shocked. He had them leave the room, then said I shouldn't have done that. In my defense, I wanted to defend myself because I thought it was unfair when the kids accused me of yelling at their dad for no reason. He said I humiliated him in front of the kids and made him feel terrible. I told him he could be less embarrassed and feel less terrible when he stops wetting the bed like a child. He started crying, saying he's struggling with his health and said that I was being cruel and descendant towards him. Now I'm trying to turn the kids against him as well as shame him in front of them. My sister visited, and when I vented to her about it, she said she understood, but I was still in the wrong for getting the kids involved. I'm feeling conflicted on whether I did the right thing, maybe to get him to understand how this has been affecting me as well. So, am I the butthole for this? See, this one I'm not sure about. I feel like everyone kind of sucks here a little bit. On the one hand, your husband is in the wrong here. Look, suck it up. It's embarrassing, I get it, but wear a diaper. Or don't wear a diaper, but go and sleep in a different bed and clean your own sheets. Like wetting the bed often and then having your wife clean it up, that's very, very poor. I say all that. On the other hand, I don't think, OP, that you had to get the kids involved in this. I do agree. It's embarrassing enough for him, but you could have just said to him, one-on-one, spoken to him and said from the heart how bad this is making you feel and how difficult you're finding it. I don't think you had to get the kids involved. What do you reckon, guys? I kind of feel like both parties could and should have handled this a little bit better. Am I the butthole for walking out of the airport when I saw my husband's mum standing there with her luggage? I am a 30-year-old woman, and I don't have the best relationship with my husband's mum. Since day one, she tried to make remarks and compare me to her. She then tried to get on my good side and started overly praising everything I do, sometimes even copying me, like that one time when she literally dyed her hair purple just like mine. And when everyone pointed out how ridiculous she looked, she actually blamed me and accused me of trying to make a joke out of her. So, anyways, my husband and I took 2 weeks off work to go visit some places out of the country. Tourism, in other words. The thing is, I was the one who saved up for and arranged the trip. My husband was responsible for booking the tickets. My husband's mum wanted to come along and threw temper tantrums when I said no. She called, texted, sent people to talk to me into letting her come, even threatening to call the police and make some complaints up to get us to stay if she can't come. My husband said we should just take her, but I told him he was wrong to tell her about the trip in the first place. He gave me an ultimatum. He said he wouldn't go if she can't come, and I told him I'd gladly call his bluff, which made him take back his words and say, fine, I'll tell her to stop it because we won't take her. From then on, things on her side got quieter, suspiciously quieter. The day of the trip came and we got to the airport at 2 p.m. My husband was walking ahead of me and was looking left and right like he was looking out for someone. I asked him, but he didn't respond. He led me to the waiting area and the first thing I saw was his mum standing there with her luggage. I froze in my spot. I felt a cold wave washing over me and I was fuming inside. Her and my husband hugged, and that is when I quietly turned around and started walking towards the exits. My husband followed me, shouting at me to stop. He tried to stop me, but I told him off the harshest way possible. He tried to say I was overreacting and that his mum was there anyway and I should let it go and not mess the trip up for us. I told him that he and his mum could still go, but that I was going home. I went home and sobbed into my dog's fur for several minutes. It turned out he booked her a ticket without me knowing. An hour later, he came home yelling and raging about how pathetic and spiteful I was to walk out, go home, and ruin the trip last minute. I told him he caused this to happen. He said that I was being so hard on his mum, it was ridiculous. I just refused to fight anymore. But he kept on berating me. Then he called my family to tell them that the trip was cancelled because of me. My family said that I shouldn't have ruined it for myself and I should have sucked it up and done my best to enjoy it. Did I really overreact? Are you kidding? Overreact? I would have reacted even stronger than you. Sorry, you're meant to be going on holiday just with your partner, you know, a couple's holiday, and out of nowhere, out of the blue, his mum is there? I can think of nothing worse. Listen, his mum is bad enough. I think we can all agree. But the fact that he has secretly invited her, saying to you, oh, don't worry, she won't come. Sorry. Like, what a joke of a man that guy is. The reason you're sobbing so much when you get home, in my opinion, is less about the holiday in isolation and more about the fact that you're now questioning whether you need to be with this man or not. Sorry, that's just what I think. In my opinion, I'm long gone. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. Let me know, do you agree with me in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube? I want to hear your thoughts for all 6 stories, some absolute classics in there. Drop your comments down below, and then, and only then, click on this playlist and watch the rest of my Am I the Butthole videos. So many episodes in this. Link also to that down in the description. I love you all, and I'll see you all tomorrow for a brand new Reddit episode.